Welcome to the Guildhall, everyone. Today, we are locking our sights on the ultimate tactical briefing for the Cambridge AS level Afrikaans 8679 syllabus. Think of this explainer as your legendary world map. We are targeting what is arguably the most rigorous, high-stakes dungeon in the entire curriculum, Section 2, specifically the topic conversation and open-ended questions. I'll be your guild master today, and we are going to decode the exact game mechanics and examiner expectations, pulling our intel directly from the official principal examiner reports. We're going to map out the foundational mechanics, reveal the hidden traps that drain your stamina bar, and chart the optimal, highest-yielding pathways. By the time we're done, when you finally sit down for that exam and the timer starts ticking, you won't just be surviving, you'll be operating at the absolute highest tier of academic performance, ready to claim maximum loot. Right off the bat, we have a massive examiner alert flashing on our HUD. The official reports reveal a trap that catches literally thousands of candidates entirely off guard. It says that students frequently lose marks by not showing they're working out. Now hold on. In the context of an Afrikaans language exam, focusing on topic conversations and cultural issues, the concept of showing you're working probably sounds like a glitch, right? It sounds like math. But this is actually a massive, high-stakes revelation. Skipping your logical working out is an instant trap. The examiners are not just scanning for a beautifully phrased final opinion in Afrikaans, they are actively tracking the cognitive footsteps you took to get there. If you drop a massive claim about a societal issue, you absolutely must show the sequence of your reasoning. How exactly did point A logically lead to point B? You have to demonstrate this using specific Afrikaans transitional phrases and logical connectors. We're talking about words like daarom for therefore, or gevolglijk for consequently. These are your magical keys. If you just spawn a conclusion out of thin air without that logical bridge, your mark yield completely stalls out. The structure of your argument is just as critical as the raw vocabulary you equip. So to systematically dodge those traps and secure our top-tier marks, here is our quest log for today. First, we'll map the core architecture. Second, we'll run through the procedural framework. Third, we'll unlock evaluative thinking tactics. And finally, we will sweep for top examiner warnings.
All right, let's unlock Sector 1 of our map, the core architecture.
Before you even think about formulating a single sentence or spending your exam stamina, you have to understand the foundational mindset demanded by the Cambridge mark scheme. Successful candidates do not just grind and memorize raw vocabulary, they have to demonstrate total competence across 3 completely distinct cognitive domains, officially known as assessment objectives. Think of knowledge and understanding as your baseline inventory. This is your grammar, your vocabulary, and your basic awareness of the Afrikaans syllabus topics. It's essential, but baseline gear alone won't beat the boss. Next up, we have analysis. This is your tactical agility. How efficiently can you deploy that vocabulary to break down a complex, open-ended question? And finally, the highest tier, the critical strike, evaluation. This is where you synthesize your points, weigh different cultural perspectives, and make a heavily justified judgment. The prompts on your exam paper act as command word runes. If you misread the runes, you activate a trap. For example, if an exam prompt uses the Afrikaans word evaluate, meaning evaluate, but your response only manages to onleed or analyze, you completely fail to reach that third cognitive domain. Matching your output to the exact cognitive domain the prompt demands is absolutely non-negotiable.
Understanding these domains really highlights the stark contrast between 2 very different playstyles. Let's look at 2 theoretical players approaching a complex, open-ended Afrikaans prompt. Player 1, let's call him Alex, is our over-encumbered warrior. He relies entirely on superficial breadth. Alex tries to list 10 different points, dumping every single dictionary definition and piece of raw vocabulary he has into his paragraph. But because he's carrying so much weight, he lacks analytical agility. There is absolutely no high-level reasoning connecting his ideas. Then we have player 2, Sam. Now, Sam relies on analytical depth. Sam might only select 2 or 3 strong arguments from her inventory, but she mines them incredibly deeply. She structures her reasoning logically and develops highly nuanced perspectives. Let me be perfectly clear. The Cambridge academic benchmark heavily penalizes Alex's playstyle and firmly prioritizes Sam's. Examiners want to see your logical, structured reasoning. They do not want a shallow, encyclopedic inventory dump of poorly developed points. Depth over breadth, every single time.
With a solid grasp of our architecture, let's fast travel over to Sector 2, the procedural framework.
This is the actual mechanical methodology of constructing your response while your stamina timer is ticking down. Top-tier candidates use a very specific systematic processing pipeline, and examiners are actively looking for the results of this exact flow. Let's walk through the 5 crucial steps. Step 1. Identify key elements. Do a radar sweep of the stimulus text to isolate the core issue. Step 2. Apply relevant principles. Equip the correct linguistic tools and thematic knowledge for this specific encounter. Step 3. Execute analysis with clear working. This is where you build the paragraph logically, making sure your reasoning is highly visible on the page using those Afrikaans connectors we talked about earlier. Step 4. Verify results. Take a micro-pause, do a mental check to ensure your response actually answers the specific prompt asked rather than wandering off into the wilderness. And Step 5. Present in appropriate format. Ensure your Afrikaans expression is totally polished. Let me tell you, skipping any single step in this sequence severely caps your maximum mark limit.
That final step, presentation, is absolutely massive. We are talking about strict, unbending conventions here, proper headings, correct thematic terminology, appropriate formats, and crystal clear structure. You have to understand that examiners view these not just as pretty aesthetic choices, but as graded professional skills. It's like wearing the right faction armor. For instance, if your quest is to write a formal letter or a structured essay in Afrikaans, and you slip into a casual conversational register, like casually using the informal jy instead of the highly formal you are going to trigger a massive penalty. Applying the correct formats and terminology proves to the examiner that you are fully fluent in the required academic environment of the syllabus.
Moving right along, let's unlock Sector 3, Evaluative Thinking Tactics.
This is where we advance to the high-level cognitive raid debate. To secure those elusive top-tier A and A-star loot drops, you have to master a very specific problem-solving cycle known as deconstruct, solve, evaluate. When you encounter a massive, dense, open-ended question in Section 2, the true dungeon boss, you cannot just attack it blindly. First, you have to deconstruct it into manageable phases. Say the stimulus text is about youth unemployment in South Africa. You don't just write unemployment is bad. You break it down into economic, social, and educational variables. Then, you logically solve each piece by applying your Afrikaans language skills to those variables. Finally, you evaluate the entire overall picture to form a sophisticated, highly nuanced conclusion. This systematic 3-part loop is the absolute signature of a top-scoring candidate. Quest pause. Before we unlock this top-end paragraph layout to help you conquer your next Cambridge exam, make sure your guild feed is perfectly optimized. Take a second right now to subscribe to Ace the Exams at the handle @AceTheExams and enable all notifications so you never miss our weekly strategic map drops, whether you are traversing IGCSE, O-levels, or AS and A-level territory. Okay, stamina recharged, let's get back into the raid. To execute this cycle perfectly, especially when you're writing complex paragraphs in Afrikaans, you need a tactical structural blueprint. The undisputed champion here is the PEEL structure. Point, evidence, explain, link. First, drop your main idea, your point. Next, justify it with specific evidence from the stimulus text or your own contextual inventory. Then, break it down by explaining exactly how your evidence supports your point, using that rich, high-level Afrikaans vocabulary. Finally, verify your logic by creating a link directly back to the original prompt. Using this exact blueprint is how you avoid your combo dropping mid-paragraph. It guarantees every single sentence actively builds toward a heavily justified recommendation.
Now that our offensive mechanics are fully dialed in, we absolutely must pivot to threat awareness. Welcome to Sector 4, Top Examiner Warnings.
We are opening up the interactive viewer radar now. Examiner data has mapped out the 3 critical red zones where students consistently hemorrhage marks. Failure point number 1, wrong approach for context. Imagine an open-ended question asking you to evaluate the impact of technology on rural communities in South Africa, but you write a beautifully structured, heavily memorized essay about global warming. You've brought a fire sword to a fire boss. Completely the wrong context, 0 marks. Failure point number 2, format and presentation errors. As we covered, this is failing to match the required register, like messing up your formal greetings. Failure point number 3, non-specific answers. This is where candidates drop vague, defective, low-level items like technology is goed want het helpt mensen. Technology is good because it helps people. Guys, you need absolute precision. You have to specify exactly how, exactly why, and exactly who it helps within the specific parameters of the Afrikaans stimulus material. Without that laser specificity, your evaluation score just flatlines. Exam stress is a real debuff, and it can easily cause you to lose your focus when the timer is blinking red. So keeping a quick mental diagnostic is vital. I want you to memorize this acronym, WFN. Repeat it to yourself mid-exam. W. Am I using the wrong approach? F. Have I forgotten the format? N. Is my answer non-specific to the context? Whenever you finish writing a heavy, complex paragraph, take a 3-second pause, run this WFN diagnostic sweep, and verify that you haven't just stumbled blindly into one of these classic, heavily penalized traps.
Okay, we've mapped the structural traps, we've locked down the formatting conventions, and we've drilled the critical need for logical depth. But there is one final, overarching strategy, the ultimate boss key. What is the singular ultimate secret to achieving significantly higher marks in Section 2? What is the one defining mechanic that separates the good players from the absolute top band legends?
The ultimate key, straight from the Cambridge curriculum architects themselves, is referencing cross-topic connections and integrating causal relationships across entirely different syllabus areas. See, average students treat the syllabus as a series of totally isolated levels. They study education, and then they study technology, and they keep them in separate inventory slots. But principal examiner reports explicitly state that the highest achievers treat the syllabus as one massive, interconnected, open world. When they answer an open-ended question about environmental issues, they seamlessly integrate vocabulary, economic concepts, and social inequality variables into their answer. They show exactly how one zone actively impacts another, building these beautiful, complex bridges in fluent Afrikaans, proving to the examiner that you see the entire holistic map and can articulate those cross-topic connections is exactly what rockets your response straight into the maximum loot tier.
Let's distill this entire simulation down to our universal rules. Always do your pre-quest question scan to decode the exact command words, manage your stamina pacing matrix to prioritize analytical depth over superficial breadth, and always run your post-quest WFN review checklist to ensure absolute precision. The map is clear, and the examiner expectations are entirely exposed. Now it's your turn to execute. Make sure to subscribe to Ace the Exams at the handle @AceTheExams, click that notification bell for our weekly Level Up Masterclasses, and drop a comment below sharing exactly which Cambridge subject and level, whether it's IGCSE, OAS, or A-level, you are preparing to conquer next. Good luck out there, and I'll see you in the next explainer.